Hello, everybody, and welcome to a special edition of the Sports Memo Full Count MLB Sports Betting Show, presented to you, of course, by the great people at Sports Memo. We have a World Series game tonight. This game was postponed last night, so I'll leave it to myself and my two panelists, JM Sports and Dan Kaiser, to go into the nitty-gritty of the matchup we have tonight. Jeff, Dan, happy Tuesday. I know we have a $2 Tuesday capper here as well, so we're going to talk to you quickly. Jeff, how you doing? Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Yeah, I'm excited, guys. Don Buster, the Insider's Room, and myself over for $2 Tuesday. So $5, all three plays. They're all football. I believe they're all going this weekend, but get them while they're the best deal you can get them at. So
yeah, all three plays for $5 at sportsmemo.com. Again, you have Buster Sports Best Sunday NFL Play, JM Sports, Jeff Michaels with a 5-star AAC Game of the Month. Then the Insider's Room also with a 5% college football play. All three of those picks for $5 at sportsmemo.com. Definitely make sure to check that out. And I'm joined by my second guest today, Dan Kaiser. Dan, nice to see you again. How you feeling today?
Kind of licking my wounds after last night's Monday night game, but looking forward to tonight's baseball action. And it's also Maction.
And Maction is back. Great point. We have Tuesday night football, the MAC conference, for those not familiar, because of course it's a baseball betting show, but that's a college football, a smaller conference to say the least. And they have a ton of fun on that football field. A lot of really exciting and entertaining games coming out of that conference. So we are back in the full swing, as we know, of straight up football, baseball, basketball, college football, college basketball coming, hockey, you name it, we got it. But today we are focusing on a very key matchup. It is the Game 3 of the World Series. Of course, again, last night, a little bit of rain in Philadelphia, and they decided not to play the game. So now both of these teams had an additional day of rest. That was 48 hours of rest for both of these two teams. Right now, looking at the lines, the Houston Astros are favorites, but not by much, depending where you look, around a minus 115 to a max minus 125 favorite. On the other hand, the Philadelphia Phillies sitting at plus 120 is the best you can get them at, but at some other shops sitting as low as around like plus 105. So a very evenly tight matchup in this game. You have the total between 7.5 and 8 runs. And due to this little rain delay now, we have Lance McCullers Jr. going for Houston. He was injured for a majority of the year, but pitched 8 starts to end the regular season. Has had some good starts so far in the postseason. And for the Phillies, you have that left-hander Ranger Suarez, who really came on strong at the end of last season, has been a great addition to the starting lineup. And also as also a couple of relief appearances, he was kind of that hybrid pitcher coming into the season who made that transformation into a full-time starter. But of course, he has that experience in the pen, which is going to come handy. So we're going to start with you, Jeff. Of course, Game 3 now, the series flipped a little bit because they have the 1-1 split. 3 games in a row in Philadelphia. What are you looking for? What do you find? Where are you looking to find some value in this game? Is there anything specific you're looking for out of either of these two teams in tonight's matchup?
no, I was a little surprised that they made the pitching change and went with Ranger Suarez. I mean, their bullpen has struggled. He made a pretty good appearance out of the bullpen, obviously, coming in recent games. He pitched in Game 1. Instead of keeping Thor on the mound, and giving him another arm that could potentially come out of that bullpen. But I am looking at Suarez's last 3 starts. His ERA was a 6.35. And I think the reason that means a little bit more into this game is because those are 2 playoff starts and his last regular season start, which was against Houston. So he's got 8 earned runs in those. 6 of those did come in that game against Houston, but even being the regular season, that's a relatively short span between seeing the opponent again. McCullers, I talked a little bit about him on the show yesterday too, but his ERA is actually slightly worse on the road. It's a little over 3, a step down from his 2.30 season ERA that he had in those limited starts, as Eric mentioned, but they are 4-1 in his 5 starts away from home this year. And it is interesting. Philly's 4-1 this season when they have more than 1 day of rest. Houston is also 3-1. But with at least 1 day of rest, the edge definitely goes to Houston in this one. 1 or more days of rest. Houston's 19-6 this year. Philly's 15-10. So that extra day of rest may have benefited Houston a little more than it did Philly. And we know Philly's been a pretty impressive team against left-handed pitchers, but so is Houston. They're 43-12 against games started by lefties. They're putting up 5 runs per game, and they're hitting over 260 as a team in those situations. And Philly's they were 4-9 in the regular season as a home dog against righties. They have won 3 straight now in the postseason. But Houston's 16-5 as an away favorite against left-handed starting pitchers this year, and they've won 9 out of the last 10. So save my best bet for a little bit later, but I did think that those edges were pretty interesting, pointing in favor of Houston in this one tonight.
Yeah, so there are certainly a lot of interesting things, like you mentioned, pointing toward Houston. Of course, that fantastic bullpen they have and needing that, or not needing, but getting that additional day of rest. But also something that I think more actually benefits the Phillies than the Astros for this day of rest is coming into this series and into the postseason. We've known that the Philadelphia Phillies bullpen is not a unit to rely on. But now that they have that extra day of rest for Wheeler and Nola, and I'm not saying that these pitchers are going to necessarily, come in out of the pen in relief, but it's the World Series. You can't leave any stone unturned, and you have to put forth your best players in order to win. And the way that this series is going, it certainly looks like it could be a 6 or 7 game series. And having that extra day of rest to have Wheeler be able to make another start on short rest that's going to be coming, or come into come out of the bullpen, same with Nola, I think is a really big edge for the Philadelphia Phillies. But another interesting point you made, though, with Ranger Suarez, he has not been hot as of late. And also just in general, his splits on the road from the regular season his splits at home are a lot worse than his splits on the road. So Suarez is not as good of a pitcher when pitching in Philadelphia, which is normally the converse is true. But with Suarez, that is the case. So, I mean, if they can get even 5 innings out of Suarez tonight, I think that's a huge win for the Philadelphia Phillies, assuming, of course, they'd be in this game, because if he gets rocked, they would not keep him in for that long. But I think that while some of the short term for today's game might benefit Houston, I think if the Phillies are able to even steal this game, that day of rest is going to be more meaningful for Philly moving down the line, because they're going to rely on those two-headed monsters to start of their rotation to get as many innings out of them as possible, because, of course, it's win or go home. Dan, talk to me. Do you agree with Jeff that overall the rest kind of benefits Houston, or how are you viewing this matchup tonight between, of course, the Phillies and the Astros?
Yeah, I kind of agree with Jeff. I think not that the Houston bullpen needs a lot of rest, but I mean, I think if you look at these two teams just at the bullpen standpoint, Houston has a huge advantage, and it just, I think it just makes their bullpen that much stronger. I was surprised, kind of like Jeff. I was surprised when they made the pitching change, and I thought maybe it was because they wanted to pitch Nola and Wheeler like back to back again. But I've saw, and it can change, but I saw Syndergaard going to Game 5, so I kind of I don't know. I'm kind of confused by that, but that's why I sit over here and they sit in the dugout, I guess. But I look at this matchup, Suarez. His last time he faced the Astros back at the beginning of October, he only lasted 3 innings, gave up 6 runs. Obviously, if you're a Phillies fan, you're going to want a lot more out of him than that, because, the extra day's rest is great, but if you tax the bullpen now, it just gets worse in the next couple games. And I think the Phillies need to win this game more than the Astros do. I just looking at it, I guess if you're a Phillies fan, one thing you got to worry about. If you're an Astros fan, the one thing you got to Altuve starting to hit again, and that changes their lineup a lot when he's getting on base, when he's hitting. So yeah, just thinking, I'm just looking at. I think the rest. There's benefits for both teams with the rest, but I think it favors Houston a little bit more in this one. And as Jeff pointed out, Houston does have a lot of advantages coming into this one, and I think that kind of goes into what my best bet will be here in a minute. But I think Philadelphia is going to need this game more than Houston does. So,
yeah, so it's very interesting. I mean, of course, the Astros with that series split in Houston kind of puts them in a little bit of a need to win because these next 3 games, which is unique with the MLB, are going to be in Philadelphia. So it's not as if they do the 2-2-1-1-1. They'll be staying here for 3 nights, and the Phillies have yet to lose at home this postseason. Of course, they were one of the better regular season teams at home as well. While the Astros, I mean, they mashed everywhere. They were a great team away from home also this season. But I think it leads to a very interesting matchup. And right now we're going to head into our best bet segment, and I'll kick it off with something that I think is going to kind of be a storyline for tonight's game. Is I am going with over 7.5 runs tonight in this Phillies Astros game for a lot of the reasons that I already mentioned, but just breaking down again the statistics for Ranger Suarez when he's pitching at home. His ERA jumps to a 4.27. He's a 272 batting average against, a 410 slugging percentage against, a 1.52 whip, and a 4.0 FIP. And those numbers are really tough to overcome when you're facing such a great lineup, because those, in the terms of in the grand scheme of things, are very below average numbers when pitching at home. And that's what the Phillies are going to be relying on in tonight's game. Then on the other end, you have McCullers, who he shut down the Phillies when they played in the regular season to kind of end that season, but he ended up getting the loss in that game. The Phillies ended up winning 3-0. But while he's been great so far this playoffs, I don't think that McCullers has immediately kind of regained his form. And the Phillies got here again with their lineup. Of course, they have those 2 great starters, but their lineup is what the core of this team is. And tonight is the night where they need to showcase that they're coming to play. And I think the best way to do that is to get on McCullers early. But conversely, I think that the Astros also have the ability to get on Suarez early. So I think 7.5 runs is a tick too low for this game. I could see a 5-4, 6-4 kind of game tonight in Philadelphia. My best bet on the show is the over 7.5 runs combined in this game. Jeff, we'll go to you. What's your best bet for the game today?
I like where you're looking, Eric. I think it's hard to pick because I think both these offenses are so impressive. I'm looking to what was my best bet actually last Friday, but I'm going Jeremy Pena, hits, runs, and RBIs combined, going over 1.5. You're sitting at -110. And Jeremy Pena in the postseason so far against left-handed pitchers he's 2 for 3. He's got 2 runs, a home run, and 3 RBIs. And in the regular season, he was one of the best on the team too against lefties. He hit 286, 7 home runs, 19 RBIs, and he scored 28 runs in just 140 at bats. There's only been 2 postseason games so far this year that he hasn't gone over this total. That's 7 out of the last 9 games. And going back to October 1st, he's gone over this total in 10 out of his last 13 games this month. He's averaging 3 hits, runs, and RBIs per game in the postseason. He's got 27 so far through 9 games, 12 hits, 9 runs, and 6 RBIs. And I will say, too, I'll give you a little extra. I like Yordan Alvarez to do the same thing tonight. He is the best on the team against left-handed pitchers. He's slumped a little bit recently, and if he's going to bounce back, this could be a big game to do it against a lefty too. So they're both sitting at -110, and I like them both to go over tonight. But for the show, officially, we're going Jeremy Pena over that 1.5.
Jeremy Pena over 1.5 hits, runs, and RBIs from JM Sports. Jeff also, again, is a $2 Tuesday capper. You can get his best bet of 5-star play for this weekend for $2, and also 3 combined picks, all 3 5% picks for $5 on sportsmemo.com. Thank you for that, Jeff. If I want the over, we need some runs. It'd be nice to see Alvarez and Pena, go and get over 1.5 hits, runs, and RBIs for this matchup. But we're going to go over to Dan now, the moment we've all been waiting for. Dan, talk to me. What's your best bet on the show today?
Yeah, I kind of like both your plays, and I hope if the over does hit, it comes from Houston, because I'm on Lance McCullers over 4.5 strikeouts. He's done this his last 5 starts. He struck out 6 Yankees in 5 innings. Against Seattle, he struck out 7 in 6. The last time he faced Philly, he struck out 5 in 6 innings. He struck out 8 against Tampa Bay in 7 innings, and he struck out 11 in 6 innings, but it was the A's, so you can basically throw that one out. So I'm going to need some innings out of McCullers, I think, to get to this one. So, but kind of as you said earlier about, Philadelphia has, their 2 two workhorse pitchers, but they didn't pitch well in the first 2 games here in the World Series, and that might be sitting in the back of the heads a little bit. That and that's why I think the Phillies need to take this one. I think they may be a little over aggressive, and McCullers, he just does it by nibbling, and he's not going to overpower anybody. So 4.5, I think that's a little low just by the way what he's done his last 5 starts. So take the over 5.5 strikeouts.
There you have it. Lance McCullers Jr. over 4.5 strikeouts tonight in Philly against the Philadelphia Phillies. And that's going to wrap it up for the show today. We want to thank all the viewers for taking the time to spend it with Jeff, myself, Dan, and our producer, Chris. We wish everybody best of luck on your bets tonight. And stay tuned for tomorrow for a full count sports betting show hosted by Jeff Michaels, where we're going over game 4. So thank you, everybody, and best of luck with your bets tonight.